Good morning, daily nonsense. What is up, everybody? How's it going? This is Grant coming at you with my first video. It's the first one. First of many. We're just going to go over all the nonsense the fucking world has to go over. The first video I wanted to do, I saw, maybe yesterday? Yeah, probably yesterday. I saw the Anonymous, the hacktivist group that they come out with all kinds of stuff. Check them out. But Anonymous came out with a statement, a video statement about warning for World War III, and I thought we could just listen to that and see what we think. So I'll play this right here. I like their intros. Fancy intro music.
We are Anonymous. All the signs of a looming war on the Korean Peninsula are surfacing. Watching as each country moves strategic pieces into place. But unlike past world wars, although there will be ground troops, the battle is likely to be fierce, brutal, and quick. It will also be globally devastating both on the environmental and economic levels. This isn't a confined, years-long proxy or civil war, like Afghanistan, Yemen, Iraq, or Syria. This is a real war with real global consequences. With 3 superpowers drawn into the mix, other nations will be coerced into choosing sides. So, what do the chess pieces look like so far? Unless you're off-grid and only consider newspapers good for fire kindling, South Korea's and the United States' position is well documented. Both are allied to the other. THAAD is verging on being plugged into a power source, and North Korea is NC towards the evil Western axis. But the devil is in the details. It's the surrounding nations and their actions that are starting to give away part of the real story. The citizen will be the last to know. So it is important to understand what the other nations are doing. In a nutshell, for those limited in time, China has reportedly told its citizens living in North Korea to waste no time returning home. The U.S. tested its Minuteman III, a nuclear-capable ICBM of traveling 8,000 miles to North Korean shores this week. The test, launched from California, was successful. The Japanese have told its citizens they will likely only have a 10-minute warning of a pending nuclear strike against them, but to find shelter in the most solid building.
Okay, I gotta stop it right there for a second. The little audio there. That's kind of scary. A 10-minute warning for an impending nuclear strike? I mean, what would you even be able to do? Like, do you personally live somewhere where if you were given 10 minutes warning that, hey, there's a nuke going off, do you have somewhere you could get to in 10 minutes? I mean, I know there's people that they build underground bunkers and whatnot, and I imagine there are buildings that are more steadily structured. You're still not looking at very high chances to surviving a nuke going off, but there are things that would necessarily up your chance. But with the 10-minute warning, is there really any kind of... answer in the comments. Do you have somewhere... Tell me, do you have somewhere that you could go in 10 minutes? If you were told there was a nuke going off in 10 minutes, do you have a plan of action? I mean, I realize that this is Japan, not the U.S., and I would imagine that we'd get a little bit more than a 10-minute warning just because we're not quite as close to North Korea, but who knows? Alright, I will continue right here.
Australia is witnessing a rotational deployment of U.S. troops to the north of the country. War. In depth. But still only scratching the surface. China. Firstly, the Chinese are desperate to avert a war. Economically, it would put them back behind the 8 ball as they deal with an influx of refugees over the border and the very real threat of a devastating war. Only this week, after many pleas to both the U.S. and North Korea to refrain from escalating already decades-high tensions, Chinese officials told them to stop irritating each other. The pragmatic Chinese, it seems, are starting to lose their patience. However, the meeting between President Trump and President Xi Jinping to have China exert hostile and austere economic pressure against North Korea to force them into ceasing their nuclear program fallen somewhat on deaf ears. Although China doesn't want radioactive fallout and refugees on its borders, do they really want their neighbor giving up their nukes when it keeps the US in check and their region a buffer against the West? Couple this with the South Korean economy sanctioned heavily by the Chinese over the fact of deployment. What are the real intentions? Japan. Japan, too, is talking up the 2020 goal of an active Japanese military, planning on shedding the promise of pacifism to remilitarize. Already, governments over the years have loosely defined the Japanese war deal made after the Nagasaki and Hiroshima bombings to never instigate a war again as permissible to have a defensive army. But with the threat of ICBM provocation from the DRPK, will they preempt an attack? Reading between the lines, the Japanese issued a warning to their citizens to prepare for a nuclear attack. They were told to keep a solid, nearby building in mind to take cover and announced that they would have no more than a 10-minute warning of an impending nuclear strike.
Okay, this goes back to they're telling citizens to have a solid building in mind that they could get to within 10 minutes. And again, do you guys have some? I mean, I don't know anywhere aside from like just typical buildings. I don't have any like specific places close by in mind that would be considered like a strong, like a fortified building. So I don't. Do you guys have anywhere? I mean, maybe you live next to somebody who's built a survival base underground, or maybe you have, you know. But aside from that, I really can't think of anything that would be strong enough to meet what they're asking.
Sales have soared in Japan for essentials that would help to keep the citizens safe in such an event. But rightly so, given the North Korean state issuing this warning on May 4th, 2017.
Okay, no lie, something like this, what he just said about Japan, the sales have risen for items that would keep the citizens safe. This would be a great time if you were like somebody who sold hazmat gear, sold bulk food, sold things that were like, oh, how do you say, geared towards survivalists. You would making dough. Like, that's not that it would really matter if a nuke went off, but you could capitalize on the chance of it going off.
In case of a nuclear war on the peninsula, Japan that houses logistic bases, launching bases and sortie bases of the U.S. forces will be put under radioactive clouds before any country. State-run Rodong Sinmun newspaper said, if Japan is truly concerned about its interests, it has to make due efforts for the peaceful settlement of the Korean Peninsula issue. And Australia isn't immune to the chess pieces moving into place, either. A strategic location in the Indian Ocean. U.S. Marines are amassing in the Northern Territory and are ready for anything. Under the guise of rotational training and deployment, 1,250 troops touched down in Darwin in mid-April for the 6th annual rotation. Although the first rotation was announced in 2011, but 2017 will also see the largest fleet of military aircraft arriving. Commanding Officer of Marine Rotational Force Darwin, Lieutenant Colonel Brian S. Middleton said when asked about North Korean tensions, that we stand ready to fight, with the Australians reminded by the more outspoken local journalists that the nation has never been impartial or neutral in war, and the close quarters of the Asia-Pacific. The reminder is sobering, but this doesn't mean outright war, not yet anyway. For the moment, China is calling for the U.S. and North Korea to negotiate peacefully. The unpredictable Donald Trump has said it would be an honor to meet with Kim Jong-un, but Spicer downplayed the comment as unlikely to come to fruition anytime soon. But when President Trump starts reaching out to those like President Rodrigo Duterte of the Philippines to ensure they are on the same page, then one must start to wonder. However, even Duterte has advised the U.S. to back away from Kim Jong-un, prepare for what comes next. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
Okay, so some pretty heavy stuff there, talking about maybe going into World War III with the U.S. and North Korea moving into strategic positions, it's kind of crazy to think about because, especially for my generation, there's been no real. I'm only 19 years old, so I haven't lived through an extreme time of necessarily fear of war in any part of my life. I mean, I was even too young to remember the 9/11 attacks. I was alive during the time, and I did learn about them, but I wasn't old enough to acknowledge what was going on at the time of that. But no, that's pretty crazy stuff. Now, in my opinion, I personally don't think that we are going to have a World War III in the near future necessarily. I think we could possibly move into another a Cold War situation like what went on back years ago with Russia and the U.S. kind of flaunting weapons and whatnot. Like, well, okay, North Korea has a nuke, so we'll be like, oh, we have a bigger nuke, and things like that. I don't think it's necessary. I think we're going to be on the brink of war, but I don't think we'll actually break out in World War III. I think that I would hope that world leaders are smart enough to know that nukes are a great thing to show off for power because they're so destructive, but launching one would just be devastating anywhere in the world. I mean, I would hate to see, because I mean, inevitably, if you launch a nuke at somebody, you're going to have civilian casualties. It's not like you can just drop a nuke onto North Korea and, well, just kill all the bad guys, all the nut jobs. You would be effectively erasing them, maybe, unless they have some kind of nuclear shelter. But with that, you're also going to catch all the civilians who are more or less trapped there, from what I understand, and from different interviews I've seen with people who have escaped. They said you can't leave North Korea, and from all my research that I've done, you can't leave North Korea. And that also begs the question is, I think there's a few U.S. citizens being held there against their will right now. So you'd effectively be erasing them as well if you dropped a nuke, and so you kind of have to weigh those things out. And it's like there's no, I'd say there's probably no safe. Safe isn't a good word for it, but there's no surefire way to drop a nuke and not have civilian casualties. And so I would hope that world leaders are smart enough to know that they can't be dropping nukes. I mean, flaunt it all you want, but when you start talking about actual nuclear devastation, it's hard to think about. I mean, it might be easy for some people to think about it, and it might be easy for a lot of people to jump on a bandwagon where it's like, okay, we'll just wipe North Korea off the map. But there's a lot more to think about. I mean, you think about it. You drop a nuke on North Korea. The size of the nukes that we have now, I mean, there's pretty much a definite chance that it would affect South Korea with it being so close to North Korea. I mean, they're literally both on the Korean peninsula, hence them both being Koreas. And so you're weighing so many risks here. The only thing that worries me is I think that North Korea is in kind of one of those positions where it's like, okay, well, they don't care if especially their leader has come out, he doesn't care. He doesn't necessarily like the American people, and he would pretty much be willing to, I think that he would be willing to drop a nuke. So that's the only thing that worries me. I think that the rest of the world leaders are smart enough to not want to drop a nuke like that. But anyways, this is my first video, guys. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. We can do more videos like this. Maybe next time I'll actually add the video in there. Leave a comment. Let me know if you want to actually watch the video with me. Leave a comment if you think I'm dumb. Leave any kind of comment. Leave a comment. And any feedback helps, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow or later today. I don't know. Depends on what I feel like doing, because it's my channel. Alright, peace, guys.